Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. And, there may not be any sports going on, but Shane and I have an awesome show put together for this week. We have two guests. One wasn't enough. We have our buddy Aaron Torres from Fox Sports Radio, who's, I know, one of our listeners' favorite guests. We had him on.
And Sean Miller's best friend.
And Sean Miller's best friend, are right up there. So he's going to talk college basketball, college football with us. And then we have another one of our most popular guests who is a U of A legend and now with the Phoenix Mercury, Sam Thomas, going to join us here. So really excited. What a great show the week before the 4th of July. I mean, you could not have asked for a better show. So great job putting that together, Shane. Just a lot to go over later, so we'll do that. But let's get right into it. Let's get into Buy or Sell, presented by Ice Shaker. Shane and I have our ice shakers here. Every week we tout this. If you're watching the video, these things are awesome. If you know anyone with a July birthday, great birthday gift, check out iceshaker.com. Use promo code Wildcat Country, capital W, capital C.
Can you hear that?
And get $5 off.
You can. Okay, good. That's been in there for a couple hours. So.
Same with mine.
They work.
Yeah.
They work. Still shaking the ice in the ice shake.
These are awesome. We'll have Chris Gronkowski. We keep promising it, but we're going to have him on here soon. All right, Shane, let's get right into it. Number one in Buy or Sell. Buy or sell Arizona's next first-round pick in football and or men's basketball will be in 2023 or 2024.
I'll go ahead and buy that. Yeah, I don't think they have a first-round pick on the roster this season, the men's basketball team. Football team, I think, could eventually. And the obvious answer there is T-Mac, but obviously he's not going to.
That's not. He can't come out for 3 years. Though.
Right. So it won't be for at least a couple of years. But if you're talking about not this year, but the next year, I'll just put it this way. I don't think they're going to have a first-round pick in football or men's hoops next season. With that said, we thought probably going into this past basketball season, they were going to have maybe one first-round pick, and that was Matherin. And then everyone else will probably be coming back. And then you got almost 3 first-round picks. So we'll see. But as of now, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to have any first-round picks on either side. Hopefully in football, we'll at least have some picks, and get back in. They'll get back in the game there a little bit. But yeah, first round, it's going to be a while.
All right. So we've got Henry Vassar in basketball. You figure he's a multiple year project, but let's say he goes 2 years like Matherin did or Dalen Terry and then goes to the pros. So, okay, I'm good with, I would put that in 2024. That's why I gave the 2-year window. I'm going to buy it as well. The other one I want to look at, and you may call me crazy, and I haven't read a thing about this guy. I think Pelle Larsson could continue to develop. And after his redshirt junior year or whatever they gave the bonus year because of COVID, that would be in 2020, the 2024 draft. Wouldn't shock me if he snuck in there at the end. Call me crazy. I think he's a great shooter. And you at the end of the first round, you just never know in the NBA draft.
He's going to get a chance to play. I'm sorry, we're just going to say with Pelle Larsson, he's going to get a chance to play on the Swedish national team here coming up soon. Great experience for him. So yeah, the expectations for him are going to be high, and I think rightfully so. Great defender, good shooter. I think he's the guy that I would expect to make as big a leap as anyone, maybe more so this next season, outside of maybe Adama Ball, who, fair or unfair, we didn't really get to see much of him.
Right. We don't know anything. Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, we saw him just a little bit. I think Jacob Cowing in football, has maybe day 2 potential. If he blows up and has a hell of a combine, there's a possibility for day 1, but I'm going to say basketball 2024. I think you would agree with me on that. So we're both buying that one. Number 2, the men's basketball roster for 2022-23 is set and no additional players will be added. Buy or sell?
I'm going to buy it, other than a walk-on. I think probably so. And, I got to be honest, I'm not exactly sure how how all the scholarships work, but I think that this program is maybe being a little cautious and saying, look, if there's no one else we really want to add who's going to make an instant impact this season, we want to keep those open because they might not be there for very long, because they could see some possible scholarship reductions here with the IARP ruling coming down, hopefully sometime soon. Hopefully we'll get this done. So, but regardless of that, it seems like it's pretty locked in. I mean, it's at the end of June, almost July. I can't imagine they're going to make another big impact addition. They certainly could. But if nothing else, I think there might be a walk-on, but that's it.
Gut feeling, I'm going to sell this. Not saying it's going to be a major impact player, and I'm not including walk-ons in this. I'm talking just about scholarship players, guys that might play. Sure. just have a feeling something will happen in the fall or maybe late summer, early fall. I don't know anything. I haven't read anything, but just a gut feeling. Maybe somebody gets unhappy somewhere and they want to go. And I think Arizona will look to find somebody, especially at the guard position. If there's a transfer point guard that may become available, just throwing that out there wouldn't shock me if the Wildcats. So I'm going to sell that one. You're going to buy it. Number 3, Tom Fornelli of I don't know. Is he CBS Sports put this thing out? CBS Sports and the Cover 3 podcast put this thing out on Twitter last week that the 2021 Arizona football team was the greatest one-win team ever. Are you buying or selling that, Shane?
Now I need some context for that, because are you talking about how, like, based on the regular season and the off season with all the commits, or that they were just a really good one-win team that probably should have won more games in the actual season?
Basically, based on total yards differential.
Okay.
Arizona had in this, I don't even understand the formula that he put together, but he says that Arizona, basically total yards differential was fairly close to even. Yeah. And for every team, you shouldn't, for winning one game, you should be significantly behind the competition. That's why he said that.
That's fair. And you look at well, first of all, I'm just going to say, I don't have a whole, a Rolodex of all the one-win teams ever, so I can't answer that question. But in terms of his overall point that Arizona was better than its record, you look at a lot of the stats and you think that you would have thought they would have won some more games.
Yeah.
Certainly on the defensive side of the ball, that they made a big improvement from the previous year. The big issue was the red zone. That was the big thing. Other issues as well, but they just couldn't score when they got inside the 20. Heck, when they got inside the 1, they couldn't score a touchdown. So that was the big thing. But they were in a lot of games last year. I mean, they were not a good team by any means, but against UCLA and against BYU and heck, against Utah, they hung with Utah for almost 4 quarters. So they're not that far off. So when you combine the fact that they've significantly upgraded their roster, of course you have to take away the schedule, but yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that they were definitely better than their record as far as the greatest one-win team ever. First of all, that's not an accolade I want. Second of all, I don't have a list of all the one-win teams in the history of college football, but I buy his point that they're not that far off as from competing as you might think by their record.
Okay, I'm going to sell this. Arizona last year, I don't know if listen, you're right in that we don't know the historical context of one-win teams. Arizona last year just didn't move the needle enough to call them the greatest one-win team ever. But you're right. It's really a tough. It's kind of a tough one.
When you lose at home to NAU, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, you got to throw that out. Okay. 2 bonus questions this week, Shane. Number 1, buy or sell the new numbers on the field at Arizona Stadium?
Not a fan. I don't think it's that big a deal. I kind of like the look of the old ones. I'm not someone who's going to get too bent out of shape with that stuff. I probably care too much about uniforms. I care a little bit more about that than the numbers. I don't give it a lot of thought. It is kind of cool. Now, is it a new thing? They have Arizona in one end zone and Wildcats in the other. Wasn't it Arizona in both before?
Yeah,
I don't mind that. The numbers, I don't know. I feel like they're trying to make them look like kind of futuristic or something. But look, it's one of those things where, like when the Suns introduced their the Valley uniforms.
Yeah, I hate those.
But most fans love them, and I think it's because they're synonymous with winning, because they the same year they got those uniforms, they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. So my point is, those numbers on the field are going to look great if they have a great season. Okay, they're going to be synonymous with a new era and a new chapter of Arizona football. If not, then people are going to be like, I personally don't like them, but I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah, I'm selling them. I don't like them that much either. But I agree with what you said. The second bonus question. Sprouts is the new official grocery chain of the Pac-12 conference. Are you buying or selling Sprouts as your official grocery chain?
I did not know this was a thing, and you are putting me on the spot here. Sprouts. I'm traditionally like more of a Fry's or Safeway guy. At least it's not Whole Foods, because I feel like that's just kind of snooty, but Sprouts is kind of the same way. You know what? Sprouts has some good stuff. I haven't been in a while because the place we live at now isn't close to a Sprouts. But I don't know. What's the tie in there with the Pac-12?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out why you need an official grocery store. Is it like this is where Arizona is going to buy all their post-game meals?
Yeah.
I thought that was Chick-fil-A. So I'm kind of confused. I don't know what we need an official grocery store, but I saw that and I had to throw that in there as a bonus question.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but if you're Sprouts, what are you paying for? You're paying for advertisements on Pac-12 Network?
Yeah, because all the dozens of people who watched Pac-12 after dark
in China. I can't get it. You can't get it.
I can get
but
it.
in China. Oh, you can't?
Yeah, I have Sling.
I have YouTube TV. I can't get it. It's a bummer.
Yeah, the only reason I have Sling.
Yeah, we need to have our buddy Matt Muehlbach back on one of these days too, from Pac-12 Network. I will not share that whole YouTube TV can't get him thing. So that's fair. Keep that between us.
I won't tell Matt.
So coming up on the show, that was By Yourself presented by Ice Shaker. Thanks to our buddies at Ice Shaker. Check those out, iceshaker.com. Coming up, two great interviews, Aaron Torres from Fox Sports Radio and our friend Sam Thomas, who I'm going to make the case is one of the most treasured Arizona athletes over the past decade. Check out their interviews here on Wildcat Country. Scooby, we sent you an ice shaker. They are a sponsor, courtesy of our buddy Chris Gronkowski. You have it right there.
I love my ice shaker. Fun fact: when I trained with Glenn Gronkowski, everybody, when we were trained together, people thought I was the other Gronk brother. So it's kind of funny. But yes, I love my ice shaker. It is very good. I use it every day. I am a veteran to the ice shaker game, by the way.
What's up, Wildcat Country? Chris Gronkowski here. Use coupon code Wildcat Country at iceshaker.com.
Shane, a few weeks ago when we did our 100th episode, we posted something on Twitter about our favorite, people's favorite guests that come on the show. I believe that one of the most popular was none other than our next guest here on Wildcat Country, and that is our friend Aaron Torres of Fox Sports Radio, and he is the college basketball and football guru. So, Aaron, always glad to have you. I want to ask right off the bat: did you seeing last week the NBA draft results? Dalen Terry, Ben Mathurin, Christian Coloco. Did any of them, based on where they were drafted, make a mistake in not coming back to Arizona next season?
It's a good question to start. I think Ben Mathurin made a mistake by calling out LeBron James like 30 seconds after he got to the NBA. But no, I mean, listen, Dalen, I had heard all along that he was a big riser. And I think the question with Dalen became, did he want to be Ben Mathurin potentially? Did he want to come back, have to shoulder that load? And I hope everyone understands I'm not criticizing, critiquing, judging, but it would have been a tall task without, a top 10 pick alongside him and a second round pick as well. And so based on where Dalen was drafted, based on the money he's going to make, I don't think he made a decision. And Christian Coloco, I wasn't surprised he was a second rounder. He's a 7'1" guy that mostly plays in the paint. And it's hard to get drafted when you're that big. And he's an incredible athlete. He's athletic. He blocks shots. He does this. He does that. I just don't know that the new world of basketball loves guys with his skill set. So, unless he was coming back and he was going to prove that he could be like a 38% three-point shooter and shoot a bunch of threes, I don't know that it made a difference. And so I really don't think any of the three honestly made a decision. I know, again, Christian Coloco maybe went a little lower than maybe was projected at the end of the regular season, end of the NCAA tournament. I don't think so, though. I mean, I think it was a great day for Arizona basketball. Three, top 35-ish picks, whatever Coloco ended up being. I can't say that any of them made a mistake.
Yeah, I think that was my takeaway as well, Aaron. Even though in the short term it's a bummer to lose all three of them, in the long term to see that they just sent three guys to the NBA, tied for second, I think, in all of college hoops, right behind Duke. That's definitely a good thing. Let's talk about Tommy Lloyd's first season in Tucson. Big picture, obviously a success, but everyone remembers the NCAA tournament, and Arizona came up short there. They just collapsed against Houston. Just your overall thoughts on Tommy Lloyd's first season.
Well, the season, it ended in disappointment, but there's 67 teams that are going to be disappointed at the end of the tournament. And I know an Arizona fan, and I remember one time I came out, I don't know if I did more than one appearance during the season, but I remember us talking, I believe it was after the Tennessee game for sure. But at some point we had the conversation, would this season be Final Four or bust? Would it be a disappointment if you don't at least get to New Orleans? I can't speak for you guys, but I think overall it was a success. I mean, look, we're seeing, the 2022 class was a little bit a little bit whatever, but 2023, Arizona already has a few commitments. I saw that kid KJ Lewis a few weeks ago at an event in Vegas. I know they're in with some of the highly ranked guys in 2023. I don't claim to be a recruiting expert, but who was the top 10 kid? So is there BJ, KJ, something like that? I feel like there's a top 10 kid that's trending towards Arizona.
Yeah, Kwame Evans, KJ Evans. Yeah,
KJ
and
Evans,
he's probably going to end up at Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and I think this was something that we might have talked about. I know that I talked about it in various other places is, year one, you want to set, obviously you want to have success. That goes without saying on the court that happens. But I think they set the tone for who they're going to be, how they're going to play, et cetera. And I think it is a style of play that's going to be really appealing to high school players, to transfers. I know they got a few guys late that I'm sure we'll talk about. But no, I think to me it's a success because you want to set that foundation. And here's the other thing too. As you just said, Shane, 3 guys selected, something that we talked about. Obviously, look, I have an immense amount of respect for Sean Miller and the program that he built. But those 3 guys aren't getting drafted where they were if they didn't play in the Tommy Lloyd system this year. And I think that he and his system and their style of play elevated all 3 of those guys. Maybe brought something out of some of the other guys, whether it was Kirk Risa, Umar Balo, whatever, over the course of a season. And so I think it was a success. Again, when you're a 1 seed, you don't want to end it in the Sweet 16 the way that you did. And it was obviously a disappointing ending. But I think it was a great foundation, Pac-12 regular season title, Pac-12 tournament title, and really just a template for what the program is going to look like, how you're going to play under Tommy Lloyd.
All right, so let's look ahead to next season, Aaron. We're losing 3 your top, maybe arguably your top 3 guys, 3 your top 4. Of course, Justin Kier off the bench graduated, so he's gone. Interesting mix of guys that Tommy added, of course, going to the international well again. A couple of transfers that maybe aren't necessarily head turners, but fit in well as seniors, grad transfers. What are your overall thoughts on how good this team could be next season, considering all they lost?
Well, a few factors. I mean, one, I think Pac-12, unfortunately, is not going to be very good again. I do think UCLA is going to be good, but that's one team. Oregon flips over their roster so much, I think it's hard to know, like, any given year, is it going to click? Is it not going to click? USC, right near where I live, I think Andy Enfield has done a really good job with that program overall, but you lose Isaiah Mobley, who's obviously an all Pac-12 player. So that's part of it. 2, I think they'll probably be better than people realize. Listen, Courtney Ramey's a really good player. You go back and look this year, it was weird because there was the Shaka Smart holdovers, but then Chris Beard brought in his guys and you had a bunch of high major transfers and everybody's trying to come in and get their stats. And, even in March, there was a press conference from Chris Beard. I forget if it was late February or early March that he was still talking about all our guys aren't on the same page. All our guys aren't bought in. And so when I look at Courtney Ramey, you go back to that year that Texas was really good. Shaka Smart's last year, they won the Big 12 tournament in 2021. And I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but I think Courtney Ramey averaged about 12 and a half points per game, 4 assists or so, 39% three-point shooting. Can play on the ball, can play off the ball. Obviously, I assume he'll be mostly off the ball with Kirk Risa, back next season. But I like him. Obviously the kid from Princeton. We'll see if the step up is a big thing. But again, you mentioned Justin Kier. I assume that he's going to fill a lot of that role. So I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about the international guys, but Tommy's track record speaks for itself. Obviously Kirk Risa, essentially a third-year point guard at this point. Bellis, we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, Umar Balo, I thought actually played pretty well down the stretch. And I do think Courtney Ramey is going to be a pretty good player for them. And then the question becomes, again, what do you get out of the rest of the Pac-12? Because there's going to be a lot of wins to be had there. I think that's why the out-of-conference will be an important part of the schedule as well, to kind of test yourself, Maui Invitational, Indiana, et cetera, against some of the better competition across college basketball.
So you, I believe, in your next season rankings, your early next season rankings. Now, this was before the Dalen Terry defection. I believe I had Arizona at 10. Where would you put them in your next rankings as they stand now?
Well, now that they have Courtney Ramey and Henderson, I think I really maybe had them in the right around 25, maybe outside, maybe 23, before the 2 commitments. I think they're a top 25 team. Now, the ceiling next season might not be as high, unfortunately, as this past year, but as a point that we discussed that last time I was on this show, and I'm not trying to compare last year to next year, but there wasn't very high expectations coming into the 2022 season as well. So I do think I think top 25 feels about right. And I think you forget, like, the NCAA tournament's brutal, but you return, and part of the reason that I had them that high with Dalen Terry is, one, I obviously really like Dalen, believe in him and his talent. I know he's not coming back anymore, but I mean, you start talking about at the time, it would have been 4 out of the top 7 players off of a number 1 seed, a team that was in the top 10, essentially from whatever, December 1 on, that most teams in college basketball don't return that. And so now you have 3 guys. They're all going to be asked to play bigger roles. And I thought, again, the staff did a pretty good job filling in the gaps. And again, it's a little bit, it happened later in the process than I'm sure many Arizona fans would like. I know that there was some, I don't want to say frustration, but maybe concern throughout most of the spring about what was going on in the portal. But you get 2 guys late. The international guys are obviously well regarded, but any freshman, it's going to take some time to adjust. But I think, look, you're talking about 3 players that are returning, 3 marquee important players off of a Pac-12 championship team. I think the big question is, does one of them, probably it's going to, I don't know, maybe Kerr or Tubelis. Tubelis obviously has to get out of whatever funk he was in late in the year. But, one of them is obviously going to have to take a step up. And then I think Courtney Ramey, you need to be the player that I just said that he was about, I think he probably needs to take another step, which I think he's capable of in that system, the 14, 15 points per game, the shooting that he had 2 years ago, the playmaking that he had 2 years ago. And we'll see if he fits. But the system, obviously, I think fits his style of play, fits the style of play that he wants. Now it's just a question of getting all the puzzle pieces to fit.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to hear what you say about Ramey, because we don't know a lot about him. I mean, we've seen him, in the occasional Big 12 game on ESPN or whatnot. So it's nice to hear that he's going to be an impact player. All right, I'm going to steal one from the Shane Dale playbook here. And one thing we have talked to you about over and over in the past is this IARP rule, or I think is that what is the ruling? Do you have any insight, and what do you expect at this point to happen? I mean, would you just say at this point we shouldn't have to worry about a future tournament ban? I guess is my main question.
To answer that direct question, it feels like, listen, let's just put 2 and 2 together, right? Sean Miller got another job. If there was concern in college sports that some crazy hammer was coming down at Arizona, I don't think Sean Miller would be hired. And it's something when I had Sean on my podcast, we talked about that. Is he's like, look, I feel confident in where I'm at. I can only articulate what I know to administrators, but I feel good that what's happening with me, but then what's also happening with the program is not going to be a surprise to anybody. So I think even if you're an Arizona fan that hates Sean Miller, whatever, it's a good sign that he got another job, that Xavier, that other schools were interviewing him. I think South Carolina seemed to be very interested in him. Somebody, they hired him. And so they must have had a pretty good feeling from the NCAA, from the powers that be, that one, no significant suspension is coming from him, that there's nothing new coming out about Arizona. And I know that's a hot topic of conversation with Arizona fans. I remember when Seth Greenberg was on campus for game day talking about, well, we don't have all the facts yet. It's like, we have all the facts, like everything that's going to come out has come out. So you factor that in with obviously 2 seasons ago, a self-imposed NCAA tournament ban. It's funny. I was actually just talking to Mike Boynton, the Oklahoma State coach, the other day, but I thought unfairly got a 1-year ban, but they got a 1-year ban. Arizona has a self-imposed ban. Listen, you never know what's going to happen with the NCAA. You never know what's going to happen with this independent council that I don't know if they've officially even ruled. Maybe NC State. I don't know. 5 years in.
Auburn, they roll in Auburn, and they got 4 years probation, but no additional NCAA tournament ban. And the reason that was given was they didn't want to punish the current players for what happened when previous players were there.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean that kind of speaks to the ridiculousness of this, that we're 5 years in, and I can't remember who's gotten what. I mean, I know Oklahoma State got the 1-year tournament ban. USC is closed without a tournament ban, but I would take it as a positive that. Besides the Sean getting another job, just the fact that just the fact that the self-imposed ban, to your point, Shane, new players. I think, and I'll just say this, and I know I'm going long. I do think as I don't know if it's stupid or not, but I think the NCAA, like when you clean house, I think that does matter to them. Where I don't want to say that they don't want to punish Tommy Lloyd or whatever, but I think it's like, okay, Arizona did what they had to do. Sean Miller and his staff got caught doing whatever. Get him out. It took a little bit longer than obviously some of the other schools, but he's gone. Self-imposed ban. All the players are gone. To Shane's point, at this point, I would be shocked if there was any further postseason ban, maybe a scholarship reduction or whatever in 2023. I don't even know if that matters. I mean, nobody fills 13 scholarships anyway. But I'll admit, I would be surprised if anything further in terms of like a postseason ban or anything that really negatively impacts the program comes out of this.
Yeah, and I encourage people to listen to your interview with Sean Miller, because I think he did allude to his belief that he might be punished additionally, but it's unlikely Arizona is going to get a lot more punishment. So that was interesting. Let's pivot to football real quick, Aaron. Coming off a 1-win season, Arizona's put together a heck of a recruiting class. They actually have a Power 5 starting quarterback now in Jaden DeLaura. Your overview, what do you think of this team going into the next season?
Yeah, I'll say this is like, I find the whole Jedd Fisch thing very interesting. And just from a distance, obviously, look, I think I was like everybody else, very skeptical of the hire when it happened, all that stuff. And not that Kevin Sumlin should have been retained. He needed to go. But obviously, I see you shaking your head there, Eric. No, I'm not Team Sumlin in any way, shape, or form here, okay? I'm just saying that, I was hesitant. But what he did on the recruiting trail this offseason, I was blown away by. And again, I'm not a recruiting expert. Obviously the guys that have played in college, I've seen all that good stuff, but to get the Cowan kid from UTEP that everybody seemed to want, to get the 5-star receiver that was committed to Oregon that everybody seemed to want. I mean, I think the big thing, and you guys could answer this better than me, is I think it seems as though everybody understands that this is going to be a process. And I think he's doing everything that he can to one, expedite the process, but two, build foundational blocks, right? Like, it's one thing to say we stunk, we're this, we're that. It's another thing to recruit really well, to start that process of an actual rebuild where maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but where you're ultimately really competitive in the long term. And I think that's what he's doing. I mean, he's bringing in the caliber of players that you need to compete at the top of the Pac-12. I think he'll get there. I mean, listen, it's like anything else, right? You need football is so different. You need 85 guys. You need guys along the line of scrimmage. You need guys on defense. But he's bringing in really talented players. And then the other thing I would say, and I know you guys know this, I know everybody listening knows this, but, they competed last year, and it didn't result in a win-loss record that would reflect that. But, there was a couple games there that easily could have gone the other way that maybe should have gone the other way. You're in a winnable, do we still do divisions? I don't even really totally know what's going on with that.
Yeah, yes and no. It's
like Colorado's a mess. You guys don't need me to tell you what's going on at ASU and the mess that they have there. So
sure, go into that if you want.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
I mean, I do have a little mini rant on that. I mean, I just think you talk about NCAA rules violations, and I know we live in a post-NCAA rules violations world where nobody knows what the rules are anymore. That was the dumbest scandal that I can ever remember, because I remember like when it all started, it's like, okay, like, and again, the rules are different now with NIL and everything. But I remember saying like, there are schools that cheat and like they get caught and you're just like, that was dumb, but I understand it, right? Like you feel like you have to do something against the rules to compete. Who was Arizona State competing with to get kids on campus during COVID when nobody else had kids on campus, and then taking pictures of it and then leaving a paper trail and then whatever? So Arizona, I think there's a lot of optimism. Arizona State, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I would have thought that Herm Edwards would be gone by now. He's not. So anyway, so we got that going for us. So yeah,
which is nice. Last question for you, Aaron, and it's a two-parter. Where does Arizona finish in the Pac-12 South? Because I do think we have divisions for at least one more year. And who wins the Pac-12 this year?
Two really good questions. I will say, is it too optimistic to say fourth ahead of Arizona State and Colorado? I don't think so, right?
I've seen that. You know what? I've seen that prediction elsewhere, specifically because Arizona plays both of those teams at home this year.
Okay.
So
Very
it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado's one, and I don't know all the inner workings there. But listen, the hire was weird at the time, Carl Durrell, and I get it. It was, I don't remember if it was during COVID or right before COVID, but Mel Tucker leaves in February, maybe even early March, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And, you know, he leaves, and I get it and whatever. But, you know, nobody really liked the hire at the time. They lost 1 million guys to the portal. They're a mess. Arizona State speaks for itself. So, yeah, I think fourth seems totally reasonable to me. And then I would say in terms of the conference, I mean, it feels I mean, I don't know if it feels like a cop-out or not to say Utah. I don't know, because the USC thing, I think it's good for our area of the country. I really do. It's funny. I was talking to a basketball assistant the other day, and we're like, I think Lincoln Riley being at USC, if they reach their potential, is good for the entire conference. I think it creates more interest. It creates more viewership. It potentially helps with future TV contracts. It gets more money into these programs, which leads to better facilities, all that good stuff. Maybe more NIL money, obviously, in this world that we live in now. But, you know, I'm just not sold that thing gets flipped overnight. I mean, we all watched them last year. They were, listen, I host Fox Sports Radio Saturday night till 11 Pacific time. So all those games were on during my show, and they were a complete mess. And so I just don't believe that you can bring in 50 new guys or 45 new guys or whatever they're going to bring in, and it just immediately clicks, and it's just immediately, you know, Oklahoma West, and they're winning 11 games and winning a Pac-12 title. And Oregon, you know, I'm just new head coach. I know that the across the board talent was there, but, you know, they kind of fell off late. They kind of got punked in the Pac-12 championship game, really twice in the final month of the season against Utah. I'm going to go Utah. I don't know if that's a cop-out or not, but
no,
I don't think
so. No.
Yeah, I think USC would be the cop-out. If I was just like, yeah, Caleb Williams, they're amazing. Like, I don't know if I'll go with Utah.
Yeah, but you got to look at Utah. I mean, they were that close to winning a Rose Bowl game against an Ohio State team that really didn't care, but still, I mean, they were that close to winning a Rose Bowl game. Just point that out. All right, last question. This one's kind of off the radar, but, you know, I figure got to test you a little bit here when you come on.
Boy.
If you were the Pac-12 commissioner and you were negotiating a TV deal for the conference in football and men's basketball, what would you do that the conference is currently not doing now? Is it different windows? Is it different networks? What would you look to do?
You know, the one thing that I would do, and I don't know that it moves the needle with the TV executive, I do think we got to do away with the travel partners in basketball. I think that's a tough ask for Arizona to go up to Washington and play on a Thursday night or Thursday at 6 p.m. and then you're sitting around in a hotel room for 48 straight hours. Or, you know, sometimes in Arizona, I don't think really is impacted by this because they're always that primetime Saturday game. But I mean, you have teams playing Sunday night, you know, and I hate to say this, not every team's flying charter like Arizona. Not every team travels like Arizona. And so what ends up happening is a USC or an Oregon or another team that could be in the NCAA tournament picture ends up taking a weird loss just because they played Thursday night. Now they're playing Sunday at 4 p.m. and, you know, they've been sitting in a hotel for 72 hours. I think that hurts the league. Now, what's the absolute alternative that makes everything better? I don't know. I'm not yet paid that kind of consulting money to answer that question. But I do think that in basketball, the best teams do take weird losses, I think, because of that, especially as we now play more games on Sunday. We get the occasional Wednesday game. I'll tell you this really quick, is that think about, you know, you asked about different windows, Eric. Remember that, and I hate to bring it up, but that Tuesday night game at Pauley between Arizona and UCLA?
Yeah, it was compelling.
Awesome. And why do we have to play all 6 Pac-12 games on Thursday in the same window when not everybody can watch? And now, I'll be honest, not every team is compelling. Not America isn't always tuning in to watch Oregon State. But, you know, that's always been weird to me, is that you stack your games on top of each other where fans can't enjoy more than basically one team at a time. And again, sometimes there's not more than one or two teams to enjoy, but I do think what you said about windows, and I would do away with the travel partners and figure out a more efficient way to get the best teams kind of not having to sit in a hotel for 48, 72 hours, kind of just over the course of any given weekend.
It's a great solution. My last thing for you, tell us where everybody can find you on Twitter, because you have multiple. You have your main Twitter, you have the Arizona Torres on Arizona Twitter, and then where can people find you online and on the radio?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. My personal page is Aaron_Torres. We started the Torres on Arizona page, which is taken off in a way that I don't know that I was really expecting. So I appreciate the support of all of Wildcat country, to use a cliche, and Wildcat Nation. I appreciate your guys' support. So that's Torres on Arizona, all Wildcats all the time. It's a little quiet right now. There's not much going on. But we'll ramp up, Pac-12 Media Day, all that stuff. And then, the Aaron Torres podcast 3 times a week. That's also available on YouTube, obviously a podcast, traditional sense. And then I host, as I said, on Fox Sports Radio every Saturday night. So sometimes I'm competing with the Wildcats on Saturday night, but when you're not watching the Wildcats, make sure to tune into Fox Sports Radio. We're on all over the country.
Well, we don't know how you have any spare time to do anything else, but thanks for joining Shane and I. Great time talking to you as always. And I'm sure we will have you on again sooner than later.
Anytime you guys need me, I appreciate your guys' support. I appreciate, again, the support of Arizona fans. And I enjoy coming on too. That's the other part, is I just like talking to you guys. So anytime you need me, just call it.
Shane, it's great to be joined by one of the most popular guests in Wildcat country history. I believe this is her 5th or 6th time on the program, so we're always glad to have her. And now she's in the pros. Sam Thomas of the Phoenix Mercury, formerly, I would say, arguably the most popular Arizona athlete over at least the last decade, I would think. We can debate that later, Shane. But we're glad to have you here, Sam, once again. Before we get going with everything else, I want to ask you about a tweet that you put out the other day that I was kind of confused about. So you put like Phoenix to Italy, essentially. So what does that mean? And does that affect your Mercury season, or explain more about that?
Yeah, I think it confused a lot of people, which, I mean, I'm glad to help people understand. I don't think people realize that as WNBA players, we kind of have to go overseas a little bit to, make some more money, because obviously with salaries and everything, it's a little bit lower. Unfortunately, things are progressing, but it's not the change we want to see just yet. So yeah, after the Mercury WNBA season, which ends depending on playoffs and everything, after that, I will be heading to Italy to play overseas for about 7 months, and then coming back, hopefully, if it works out, going to training camp again. And that's just usually the schedule that, it takes for the women's basketball professional career, it's kind of sad, but I'm very excited to be a part of this journey.
Yes, Sam, help me with the pronunciation. Is it Dinamo Sassari, the team you're pronouncing?
You pronounced it better than I probably could.
Okay.
The team is Sassari, and I believe like the island, or the little, I don't know if they call it cities or anything, is like Sardinia. So it's a little island, and then I'm going to Sardinia with the team Sassari. Okay,
very cool. Well, maybe we'll have chatted with you from Tucson and from Phoenix. Maybe we'll get a chance to chat with you from Italy here in a few months. But
yeah,
we make the time difference work. Like Eric said, thanks again for joining us. His ability to butter up our guests knows no limits. But really, you are one of our favorites, and we appreciate it. Tell us about how this whole thing with the Phoenix Mercury came about. Your tryout with the team came about, and then how you learned you were going to be added to the roster for the season.
Yeah, so obviously after the last game, it was a tough one, but after that, got right into it, started talking to agents, trying to hire one. And then obviously Adia was helping me out working, because I wanted to play at the next level. So just trying to figure out, the likelihood of getting drafted or training camp options. And so we were just talking about that. Adia was talking to all her friends in the W. And then Phoenix, we reached out to Phoenix, and Coach Vanessa said that if I don't get drafted, she would love to have me at training camp. And so after the draft, probably like 20 minutes later, Adia called me, and then Coach Vanessa called me saying that she would love to have me at training camp. And I mean, I was so happy. It was just the perfect moment. Phoenix, which is right close to Tucson, close to home in Vegas. So I jumped on the opportunity. I was like, yes, I would love to come. And then training camp lasted probably like 2.5 weeks. Got to play the 2 preseason games with them. So that was really fun. And then it was one practice. After practice, Jim Pittman, the general manager, and Vanessa called me into their office. Sat me down. I was so scared. I was freaking out. And then, they just said, we have to make roster cuts today, and we'd love to have you on our roster. And so got a little emotional. Some tears came out, but was very happy for this opportunity. And it's been amazing ever since.
And it's great that Adia is still advocating for you. And I'm sure for other Arizona players after their their time in Tucson ends. And that's fantastic. So let me step back to what you mentioned, the bittersweet ending to your time at Arizona, that you had those 2 games at least to play in Tucson. You had the big standing ovation. You're able to come out of the game at the end, even though I know it wasn't the way you wanted to come out, but just what was the end like for you? What were the thoughts and emotions going through your mind?
Yeah, it was just a lot. I mean, who would have thought I would end my entire career on McHale floor? I think that was something really special. Obviously, it would have been nice to go farther, but I mean, with South Carolina winning the whole thing. So it was nice to stay in McHale. And obviously, it was sad to lose that game, but to have me surrounded by all the fans, my family, my teammates, everyone that I love, blood, sweat, and tears that gone in that building and everything. So just to be able to have it, I was trying to hold it in a little bit, not be as emotional, but I mean, once I got subbed out and then hugging Kate and Bendu, it was just a rush of emotions. And, I think about it a lot. There's a lot of pictures and videos that people are still tagging me in about it. So it's nice. I'm glad that it ended the way it did. Wish it could have gone differently, but wouldn't have changed it for anything.
When you look back on your Arizona career, Sam, I mean, when you committed there, you couldn't have expected you would have accomplished as much as maybe a player and as a team, that you guys did. Just kind of reflect on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy journey. I mean, obviously coming in, we were not very good, obviously only winning those 6 games, but I think having Ari and Dominique and TT in those practices my freshman year, I kind of could see a little bit how good we had potential to be. Never thought that we would jump that fast throughout my 5 years, but I mean, next year it was a WNIT. And then unfortunately COVID happened, and then just making that national championship run. I mean, we just put in the hard work, believed in ourselves, trusted Adia, and we just really believed in the culture of our team. And I think that's what really helped us excel on the floor.
Give me your favorite moment as an Arizona Wildcat. One thing that stands out. Now, for me, off the court, I'm going to say that one of mine of your favorite moments involving you was when you said you were coming back at Arizona Stadium at that celebration. I thought that was one of the coolest things I've seen from the athletic department in a long time.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was definitely a fun one. Wasn't expecting to do it right then and there, but it just happened. That was definitely a favorite. I would say, obviously, the run to the national championship was a favorite. Selling out McHale with the WNIT, I think that was kind of like the push, the hump that got us over to really, bring in the excitement to Tucson. And then probably one of my favorite moments would be beating Stanford on our home court, McHale, because that was pretty fun and everyone's going crazy.
I got to tell you, Sammy, I covered the women's basketball team in 03-04, and they were a good team then, but they didn't have nearly the kind of fan support then that they have now. And I agree with you. I think the WNIT really helped create that sense of community, and it's carried over ever since. Let me ask you about your time with the Mercury. Your role on the team as a rookie. What's the dynamic on this team like compared to the last several years in Tucson?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously completely different. I'm playing with all-stars, people that are, much older than me. They have families. They're so much smart. I realize how much more I have to learn about the game, but it's awesome just being in practice every day and learning from these great people and my peers. And then everyone is so nice. I was so scared coming in as a rookie. I was going to have to do rookie duties, maybe do things I don't want to do. But I mean, everyone's been super supportive. They've been telling me if I need anything, I can always go to them. So very, very happy. And we're actually going to all go cook tonight at my apartment. So super fun about that.
Nice. What are you going to make?
We're going to do some soul food, mac and cheese, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, all of it.
Love it. Love it. What's it like playing alongside Diana Taurasi, who I think most people would consider like the best of all time? What's it like playing alongside her?
Yeah, everyone asks me that question, and I just never have a perfect answer because I think I'm just still so like blessed and starstruck at the same time. I'm just, everything she says, I'm just like watching her and taking it in and trying to learn so much. And then just watching her play, she's just seems so relaxed out there, and she knows what she's doing. She's on the floor and she makes everyone better. And then off the court, she's probably like one of the nicest people ever, which some people probably might not expect that, by the way. She sometimes gets in it with the refs and stuff like that, but she's super nice and I love being her teammate.
And I think one player that I know is one of the better, most heralded players in women's basketball, college women's basketball over the last decade or so is Skylar Diggins-Smith. And now she's a leading scorer on the Mercury. Just talk about her influence on you also as a fellow guard. Yeah,
she's definitely been a huge help. I kind of see her as like the mom figure. She has a little boy of herself. So she's always making sure like that I'm taken care of. And then she's also a lefty like me. So after the last game that we had, I scored my little lefty floater. She was like, yeah, Sam, just like me. And I was like, yeah, like I've been watching you for so long now, like had to do it. And so that was just a fun moment. But I mean, she's super awesome and she just knows the game so well. You can tell she studies it and looks for all the reads. So playing with her is just really fun because, she's just going to teach you how to play the game and not necessarily say like, oh, if the ball comes here, you cut. It's basically just to read it and you just move off the defense. So I've been learning a lot from her.
That's awesome. It's really cool to see that the veterans and Skylar and Diana have been such an influence on you. You had mentioned at the start of our interview here that the WNBA model, there might be some changes going forward. What would you hope to see as far as professional women's basketball in the U.S. Going forward?
Yeah, I definitely think it's growing. I think, the support and the fan base is growing. I would definitely say, obviously, what's in the talks, getting more teams, bigger roster sizes, bigger salary caps, because I think women's sports in general has been increasing so much, especially since 2020. So I would like to see those changes happen in the near future, but hopefully they can happen sometime soon.
Sam, a bit of a heavier question for you. And I know you haven't had a chance to play alongside Brittany Griner. And, we all know her be detained in Russia for about 5 months now. Mm-hmm. What's that situation been like for you and your teammates? And how closely are you all following that situation?
Yeah, they're doing a very good job of keeping us updated. Obviously we see everything in the media. So we're just keeping her on our hearts, praying for her, hoping that she gets returned safely, obviously keeping her shoe drive going for her. Actually today they had a shoe drive and they went and delivered shoes to the homeless people. They had just a big truck and they just said, what's your size? And they just delivered the shoes because it's so hot in here in Phoenix, way too hot to be walking around with no shoes. So just trying to keep, everyone's spirits up, hopes up, and just keeping on her legacy.
What's it like playing in Phoenix, up in Sun Devil territory? I'm sure you got a lot of Wildcat fans like us up here, but do you get any banter back and forth with some of the fans up there?
It's funny. I think I've kind of not converted them to Arizona fans, but maybe kind of like my fans a little bit. I had a few fans the first day that we did like public appearances. They're like, I love ASU and I will never like Arizona, but so glad you're here. Happy to cheer you on finally. So it's nice to have some Sun Devil fans be able to cheer me on. And then of course, one of my coaches used to coach at ASU. We have a lot of managers, video coordinators, all came from ASU. So it's nice to be a big, happy family now, all supporting the same team.
And there's a Sun Devil who just transferred to Arizona. Who's going to be a pretty big star for at Arizona next season. I wasn't prepared to ask you this question, but have you had a chance to talk to Jay LaVille about that?
I talked to her a little. I just congratulated her on committing to the better school. And so just hoping that she really enjoys her time there, because I know we love to have her. She obviously did some pretty good things against us when we played them. Yeah, so hoping that she can come here and do the same things for us and make it back to the national championship.
Yeah, let me ask you about the incoming class, especially the freshmen. We had a chance to talk to Maya Naji a few weeks ago, and I am still very upset that recording got lost. I was downloading it, and I know it was a great interview. She's fantastic, and I'm still upset about it. But she said some very nice things about you and the relationship that you have and her, you sort of being a mentor to her. What's your relationship been like with her specifically?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I remember, I think it was my junior year, maybe. I think she came on an unofficial visit. So got to meet her then. And then, of course, her brother playing here. Yeah. And then her official visit. So I actually had the chance to go back to Tucson for the little kids camp that they had. And she was there. So I got to talk with her for like an hour just about my experiences, just about working hard, what to expect. Because, it's scary coming in as a freshman. So I really like her. I see her as a hard worker. She's going to do great things for Tucson and the school of Arizona. And I think the Tucson fans are really going to fall in love with her. I can see her being, doing the same things that I did there, doing all the academic things, getting all these awards and just bringing that excitement back. So I think Tucson fans are really going to fall in love with her if they haven't already.
Yeah. And just based on her interview, like I said, I wish we fans were able to hear it because she's fantastic. She actually reminded me quite a bit of yourself, which is a big compliment. My last question for you, Sam, you were the female recipient of the Tom Hansen Medal, which was given annually, for those who don't know, to every team in the league's top seat for the greatest combination of performance and achievement in scholarship, athletics, and leadership. I needed to read that because I was forgetting exactly what it was. But yeah, as if you couldn't add more to your accolades, what did it mean to get that medal?
Yeah, it was nice. Obviously, they told me a little bit before the media post. So it was nice because, I thought I was done with Arizona not getting awards.
Never.
So it was nice to, have that and have them mention that. And then, of course, just, cherry on top for all the hard work that I've put in, academics, basketball, community. So I was really honored to get that award, and just everyone was saying such nice things. So so happy to have that.
And my last question for you, Sam, you had come out with this clothing line. Tell us about the status of that going forward, and what would you like to see that develop into in the coming years?
Yeah. During training camp, I feel like everything happened so fast. So I kind of just pause that a little bit. It's still there, but just haven't really made anything new, because obviously now we need a new color scheme change. But yeah, we'll see what I want to do with that. I don't know if I want to continue doing clothes. Been thinking about doing other stuff, maybe dog clothes. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, definitely want to kind of start, adulting a little bit, maybe starting like my own business of something else besides clothes. Cause people can buy my jersey now here. So I'm still figuring out. I think rookie year, I'm just taking it to focus on basketball, learn the pros, and then hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see some stuff coming out.
Well, Sam, you've always been gracious with your time and joining Shane and I. Thank you so much once again. Even now that you're in the pros, we congratulate you. You continue to make us proud as a fellow alumnus of U of A, and best of luck. And I'm sure we will talk to you sooner than later.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
What a great show we've had here, Shane. Aaron Torres, always great info, long interview there. He's awesome. And Sam Thomas, just a class act. That's everything. Every time we've had Sam on, she has been nothing but a class act. She is everything that is good about U of A athletics, and why Shane and I do the show. Both those guests are why we do the show, because it's fun,
Sam reminds me a lot of Larry Fitzgerald, Eric, because she does everything the right way. She's a very savvy business person, and she's very polished. Her answers are very made for TV sound bites. I'm not saying they're fake by any means. I'm just saying that they're very well-rounded. She doesn't trail off. She's very good at it. She's good at whatever she puts her mind to. And she reminds me of Larry Fitzgerald, like the off-field Larry Fitzgerald in that way. So, and Sam's doing great with the Mercury. It's great that she's able to dominate up in Sun Devil country, and maybe convert some ASU fans, at least to being Sam Thomas fans. That's step one. That's the gateway into conversion. So she's doing some good work there. And then having Aaron on. We talked about this after we were done talking to Aaron. We need to get him an ice shaker. We do. An ice shaker.
We do. We gave it to our buddy Scooby, who I believe is in the finals of the USFL. So good luck to Scooby.
We need to make sure that Scooby celebrates with an ice cold beverage from his ice shaker. After they win the whole thing.
Scooby seemed to like a response to a tweet that I had of yours on Wednesday, when you had said that you posted something about meeting Sean Miller. How many years ago is that?
13 years ago yesterday, which we're recording Wednesday. So June 28th, 2009. Sean Miller had this alumni event in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. No,
yeah. Oh, were you there?
I believe I was. Yes.
Okay. That was before we knew each other, obviously.
That was correct. Yep. Long before we knew each other. So I used to go to all those things. I loved it. So then I said, well, and you said good things about Miller. I'm excited for the future, everything like that. And I wrote, well, it pales in comparison to me looking into Rose Bowl tickets after Kevin Sumlin got hired.
To be fair, you were looking at hotel reservations in Pasadena, right?
I was looking at tickets, hotel.
That's not what you said before, because before I made fun of you for saying you're looking at Rose Bowl tickets, and you said, no, I didn't do that, Shane. I was just looking at hotel. So
the truth comes out.
The truth has finally come out.
Yeah, 5 years later, the truth comes out.
Okay.
All right. So we teased this before the end of the first segment. I think Sam Thomas is the most beloved Arizona athletics athlete over the last 10 years. Would you disagree with that? And if so, who would you put in the conversation? I have one name I'd put in the conversation.
I would put Sam right behind TJ McConnell.
That was my only other one I was going to put there.
And real quick, and everyone loves that guy. I remember I went to an Arizona UCLA game maybe just a couple of years after McConnell left. And there were some former Arizona players there. McConnell was one of them. So Stanley Johnson and Rondé Hollis Jefferson were a couple of others. So, during a couple of the timeouts, they'd show the different guys in the stands. They showed Rondé and Stanley Johnson sitting together. They got a very nice ovation from the home crowd. The next timeout, they showed TJ McConnell, and the place went nuts. a nice ovation for Rondé and Stanley, but nothing like what TJ got. People love that guy. They love how much he busted his butt for the program. Just the 2 years he played at Arizona. Of course, he famously kissed the floor as he came off the court for the last time. Sam got a very similar ovation when she came off the court for the last time, albeit in a losing effort. So I would put those two at the top. I think you could mention a couple of others. I think our guy Scooby would be up there too.
Scooby would definitely be in the conversation. You bet.
Yeah,
Kadeem Carey, you could probably throw Kadeem in there.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think
well,
gosh, if Khalil at least beaten ASU once, that might be a different story. But
true.
But I would put TJ McConnell maybe just above Sam, but the real like neck and neck really in terms.
So
of
you would go
athletes.
So for men's basketball, it's TJ. For women's basketball, it's Sam, and for football, it's Scooby.
Yeah. Well, you have to also mention Ari McDonald because she was the main reason that Arizona became literally inches away.
But Sam was the
glue.
Personnel. The glue is.
And she's like just everything right. She's and academically, athletically in the community, and now she's still in Arizona representing. She's going to be going off to Italy in a little bit. Hopefully, we'll have her on it then as well. But it's a great question. I don't say that about all your questions, but this is
no, you don't.
But yeah, I gave it a little thought because you mentioned we were going to talk about this. There are several in contention, but I think Sam and TJ are the two that stand out. And Scooby, I think Scooby's definitely up there too. It's unfortunate that he didn't get a chance to play a little bit more because last year he was injured most of the season.
So good luck to Scooby this weekend. We're pulling for you. Last question for you, Shane, on the show, which has been an awesome show. The ACC rolled out this new model, like this 3-5-5 model, something like that, where each team is going to play 3 set teams on a yearly basis. Then they rotate home and away a few times over the next few years with I don't know, something like that with the other teams. What should the Pac-12 do as far as their football scheduling goes? Is there a solution that you see that makes sense for this conference?
I would take a look at each team's natural rival and make sure they played every year, or rivals. Obviously Arizona and ASU, that's really the only big rivalry there. I mean, you have the UCLA and USC schools, but is it really that big? I think from my perspective, I think Arizona, the only team I want to see them play every year for sure is ASU, and vice versa. USC want to see them play UCLA every year and vice versa. And for other schools, it might make sense to have multiple teams in that category. But to me, that's all that really matters. If you're going to get rid of the divisions, I wouldn't worry about playing every team in the South or the geographical region every year. I think we can mix it up a little more than that. I think make sure that you have that game against your rival, and then you don't have to play once you get rid of the divisions. You don't have to necessarily play USC or UCLA every year. Maybe for
Arizona, you do because it's recruiting. I mean, everybody wants to play those teams every year, or at least one of those teams, because you have that recruiting base in Southern California.
Maybe UCLA and USC as well as ASU would make sense for Arizona. Then after that, do they have to play Utah every year or Colorado every year? I don't think, especially because they're the two new teams, still the two new teams in the conference.
All right. So the big question, most of the other big conferences are doing 8 games among in-conference games per year. The 3 traditional rivals and then 5, other ones. Should the Pac-12 stick with 9 or go like everybody else to 8?
Pros and cons. I'm kind of torn about it, Eric. The pros are you play 4 home games and 4 road games every year. So you're balanced in that regard. Obviously, the scheduling is what it is. You can't make that a level playing field every year. But home and road would be balanced. On the other hand, you get an extra game, you get maybe more of an accurate depiction as to who is the best team in the conference. If you go 4-0 in non-conference play and then you slip up just twice in conference play, maybe you don't go to your conference championship game. You don't have a chance to go to a New Year's Six game. So there's less margin for error in that regard. But the other thing too, with the pro of just doing 8 is you get possibly a chance to play another great non-conference team. Although the SEC doesn't really do that. They throw in a clunker and a cupcake.
Sure.
The middle of their conference schedule just is kind of like another tune-up. So if that didn't happen, I'd be in favor of it. I'm fine with a 9-game schedule. I wouldn't necessarily be upset to see it go to 8.
I used to love the 9-game schedule, more more conference games. I love it. You gotta adjust to what everybody else is doing. You gotta have at least 7 home games every season. It just with the money there. You throw in the NAUs of the world, one of those. You have a mid-major team, maybe a Mountain West team that comes to Arizona Stadium. a New Mexico, one of those. And then you have a real big team, a home bigger game and a road bigger game. I think it absolutely needs to be 8. I think the ACC is onto something. I think it's a very, very good idea. And I think the Pac-12 will not adopt this for some inexplicable reason.
Because it's a good idea.
Because it's a good idea. But we will talk about this, I'm sure, going forward. It's been a great show. I want to thank Aaron Torres for joining us. Of course, Sam Thomas, I believe her 6th time on Wildcat Country. Might even be more than that. I've lost count. Great show, Shane. Really enjoyed it. For Shane Dale, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.